Hello and welcome to a new video. Today we're going to take a look at the XL Rhyperior in the Open Master League. This Pokemon is going to be very interesting because Mudslap got buffed with +1 energy per usage, but also Breaking Swipe got nerfed. So let's take a look on how this went. Was this actually a buff? Was it actually a nerf? We will find out together, and I can already spoil it a little bit. Yes, this was definitely a buff in general for this Pokemon. Breaking Swipe is insanely underrated, which is kinda one thing because on how PvPoke works and how PvPoke ranks it, because it's actually way better than what you see on PvPoke. For PvPoke, they always say the first Breaking Swipe doesn't debuff, the second one always debuffs, and this is not how it's going to function the entire time here in the games as well. You have a lot of times where Breaking Swipe is basically the same as before, and you're also going to be able, I think, to get there now one fast move earlier. I think you need just 4 fast moves to get there, which is really insane here. First game was an easy victory. As we're going to have a team here around it with 2 flying type Pokemon back, I kind of want to try out my Lugia as well and also my Dragonite. This team, by the way, is something that you just literally get immediately when you put Rhyperior and PvPoke and get rid of something like a Zygarde and stuff like this that you don't really encounter in the meta. So like it's the most 2 common Pokemon for this one. Here we're going to also see the Shadow Ball doing some nice damage against our Lugia, sadly. Honestly, this is the first time I'm playing Lugia since the nerf for it, which was, I think, last season with Sky Attack. It's definitely still viable, but you see a huge difference for this Pokemon. It's definitely way worse than before. But as you can see here, we're still going to be able to reach an Arrow Blast against the opponent. Going to be able to get a shield here, getting them low below half health. Of course, we have to use 2 shields now against the opponent with our Rhyperior. But yeah, this team was amazing. Like, if you want to have a team to climb up a little bit in the Master League, I can highly recommend you this team. I was a little bit worried about it because I was thinking that there are most likely going to be a lot of Fairy types around, and Fairy types are really tricky for this one. But I feel like that the current meta change with like Ho-Oh coming in, stuff like this, kind of reduced the amount of Fairy type that you see, and here we're lucky that we're going to encounter it in the lead. So we actually had some decent time against Fairy type Pokemon. Like, it was not really an issue for me. I expected too many like double Fairy lines or something like this. Kyogre double Fairy completely destroys this lineup, but was not really a problem. Was definitely a very solid line to use, and climbed a lot of elo, like you can see as well. Like, I went 5-0 I think twice with this team, which was kind of wild. It was really good, so definitely recommend it to you. Here we're going to see the close comment coming through. We're going to see the opponent swapping out. I usually just, if the opponent swaps out, I just go for a Breaking Swipe, no matter what really coming in here. This time it's going to be a Groudon. You don't really have to do it against something like a Groudon, because our team is really good against that anyway. But this is going to allow us to have an easier farm down time with our Dragonite, which might be a very nice force. As you can see here, we can resist everything, double resist the Pressure's Blade, and it's it's debuffed as well, which is kind of wild. So we're going to be able to get out of this matchup with a 100 energy. They still have the Xerneas, but the Zacian I mean, but we can still go for the Dragon Claw, which is going to get them low. Not going to get the knockout, but they swap out into the Mewtwo, and like, eventually they're going to have to use their final shield, which they decide to do now, and so I can go for another Dragon Claw, but I nearly have the Rock Wrecker stored as well, and the opponent is most likely not really expecting it, so I can just go for the Rock Wrecker here, knock them out, and win this game without even using my Lugia, which is kind of nice. So let's move on to the next one. Next opponent coming up, we're going to have a pretty decent lead, you might think, and honestly I should play it a little bit differently to what I do here right now, because as you can see, I can go for the Rock Wrecker. I think I actually get to the Rock Wrecker now a little bit faster, and they would be able to go for an Earthquake, but they could have the Earthquake, so I decided to swap out into my Lugia. Somehow I didn't get a fast move in here, which is super weird. I definitely should have been able to get a fast move in, like not even close. Like, usually if you swap out basically 1 turn before the opponent gets to their charge move, you would be able to still sneak a fast move through. I swapped out 2 turns before that, and yeah, so definitely should have been able to get the fast move through. At the end of the day, don't think it really matters here, but we can now swap out into our Dragonite most likely to try to get some energy advantage. They can still definitely go for a Brave Bird, but we can use a shield, and we're going to have a ton of energy with our Dragonite, which is going to be nice as the opponent decides to swap into the Dialga, allowing me to get off the superpower. I can go straight for the Breaking Swipe, gonna try to get the debuff onto the opponent as well. Let's see, 50% chance, do we get the debuff? We do not get the debuff, but it does not really matter, because the opponent is now in range where I can completely farm them down with a Mudslap on my Rhyperior, and so this is going to be a great time for us, as we can now go for whatever move I want to. The opponent decides to swap out into the Ho-Oh again, and I tried to swap farm him all the way down, but I think I wouldn't have been able to do so. Maybe I would have been able to. I think they would have got to the Brave Bird in time, so I was forced to go for one charge move here. They have the Zekrom in the back, so we can go for a Breaking Swipe. We're going to get the debuff this time around, and so we can swap into our Dialga, to our Dragonite here, which is going to get the knockout, and we can move on to the next game. Again, like, Breaking Swipe is highly underrated in the current meta. I kind of want to take a look at the Steelix as well, again, in the Great League and maybe even in the Ultra League, and just check out on how this Pokemon actually still performs. But because I'm fairly certain it's still a very, very good Pokemon, also with Breaking Swipe. And people just don't really know because it's so low ranked basically from PvPoke because on how they calculate the ranking, which is not really a front on them, but it's just kind of how it is. And so I feel like they're actually way better than a lot of people expect. And so I think it's definitely a viable option here to still try out something like Steelix in the Great League, Steelix in the Ultra League, some Hexers maybe even with the Breaking Swipe. It's still better than Dragon Claw. Like, this is I think as well. A lot of people, as soon as something gets nerfed, they completely just throw it into the bin and don't really consider it anymore. But a lot of times it's not really that drastic. It's just how people can act towards it. And so I definitely would recommend you to try out those good Breaking Swipe users. Still, something like Heliolisk in the Ultra League would also still work well. Here we were able to farm on the opponent's Dialga with our Rhyperior. They're going to go into their own Groudon, and at this point of time, I know already, this game is over. I found a lot of Groudon in the back, which is kind of nice. And I just did some battles as well in the Master League, again with a different team, which you're going to see most likely tomorrow, where I encountered a ton of Kyogre in the back, which was not really ideal for me, but kinda for this team it would be ideal because Dragonite is in the back, which is a hard counter to both of them. So kinda what you want to have there, we're going to have something that I don't really want to have, which is going to be the Zygarde complete form. Battling against this is actually, I think, my first battle against this Pokemon, so I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I decided to stay in here because this matchup is actually okay, and they go for the Crunch over the Earthquake, which is kind of cool for me. I can go for another Breaking Swipe, but I decided to just store my energy. We have kind of an ABB style line, so I can have to keep my lead alive. And now I decided to swap out into my Lugia. They have a drop defense, and they're like, no, they have not a drop defense, they have a dropped attack. They dropped my defense here, but we can now just let this Crunch go through. This is going to be fine because I didn't get the debuff, and let's see what we see in the back here. It's going to be a Solgaleo. Honestly, this is the one thing that makes me really not like Master League anymore. Like, all the Solgaleos as well as the Zygardes lurking around here, it just feels not really balanced with that. It's like literally either pay to win if you want to say so, or like play to win, I guess, if you want to say so. But like, honestly, like grinding those 250 roots, like, shouts to everybody who does that. I am not going to be one of them. I hate roots. Like, literally the feature itself, it's just not my type, because I like to just walk around where I want to walk around, and the routes that I put in basically for the routes that I would go myself when I play Pokemon Go are all rejected because they're apparently inappropriate, so that's kind of nice as well. I just don't like the feature, but at least we were able to get rid of the Solgaleo here, and we're going to see the Zygarde coming in. We can go for a Breaking Swipe against them. This is going to get the final shield against the opponent, and we will also see that they decide to forfeit. So goodbye there with your pay-to-win / tryhard team. Let's move on to the next one. The issue just with like those Zygardes as well as the Solgaleo is that a lot of people used the exploit towards it. Like, there was like an exploit that you had to really cheat to basically get the XL candy in a very, very fast way through the buddy method or something like this. You literally had to like cheat like crazy for that, but yeah, I know that a lot of people did this, and I know that's still possible to get it legit. Like, I know that a lot of people also have it legit, so it's always like kind of tricky with the Master League. You don't really have this in like the other leagues where you have like people that are running stuff that you don't really know if they're legit or not, but for this kind of stuff, it's just a little bit tricky. I know like XL candy, especially nowadays, are a little bit easier to obtain. For example, I have currently, I think, like around 340 rare XL candy in my inventory because I use raid passes for Go Battle League, which literally gives you a ton of them. So like, if you wonder how I get them, that's the main way I do it, because I don't do in-person raids and there is no community here to do in-person raids. But yeah, it's something that is the easiest way to currently achieve like those rare XL candy. I do it for content, of course, for later on when we get a new mythical Pokemon eventually, but it is something that a lot of people don't do, and like, there are exploits, and so it's a little bit tricky for that. Of course, I also have my XL Shaman build, which I maybe should take a look again as well in the Master League, maybe later this season, which is level 51 already as well, 100% from the Go Fist in Berlin, which was kind of funny. But yeah, I was working on this Pokemon for quite a long time, used a lot of rare candies on it as well. Didn't even use that many rare XL candies on it, but definitely a little bit fishy sometimes. Let's move on to the next game. Let's take a look here actually at the gameplay again. We're going to have the Ho-Oh in the lead, which is going to be a decent lead for us. Again, we could just stay in here. Like, there is not like really any way that the opponent is going to run something like Earthquake or Solar Beam on this Pokemon. I barely see stuff like this anymore. Like, usually everybody is running Sacred Fire plus the Brave Bird. So here we see we're going to let this move go through. It's kind of safe to do that. We can use a shield on the next one, and the opponent is decided to most likely swap out here afterwards. As you can see though, like, we end up with like low health, as well as the opponent is just there with like nearly full health still, showcasing a little bit on how bad the matchup actually is for us though. Here we could see the Dialga swapping in. The Dialga is going to be a little bit of a trickier one as well, especially as we didn't get the debuff. If we got the debuff, like, so many things would have changed there for us, but we can still try to farm them all the way down with the Dragonite. Getting a ton of energy here before they can go for another charge move is going to be nice. They're going to go back into the Ho-Oh. I can go for the Dragon Claw, but they will be able to reach the Brave Bird before that, so, like, before I can go for the next one. But they decide to swap out into the Giratina, and this kind of opens up a little bit of a play for me. The Ho-Oh should have a move stored, but I can just go ahead and use a shield here onto my Dragonite. I will be able to go up to another Dragon Claw, and I think they're going to be forced to use a shield as well here. And so, if I can catch a move on my Lugia, I might still have a play here, and I will be able to just swap out into my Lugia. Catching the move here is going to be very nice. But it's going to be a close one. It's going to be the Ancient Power, which is a little bit tricky as well. I can still go for a charge move here, but I know that the opponent has a move onto the Ho-Oh. I hope that they're going to throw here, but they decide not to, and so it's going to be a good game as they can still go for the Brave Bird. A very close one though. Let's move on into the next game. Next opponent coming through, we will see the Rhyperior against a Rhyperior again. Like, again, if you have a Hundo, that's totally going to be a little bit better. But for me, this is a lucky Rhyperior that's shiny, so I kind of want to try this one out. I did not expect that this is already the Rock Wrecker, but it actually is. So it does a ton of damage against the Lugia, and they swap out into the Giratina. Not ideal so far, like, not even close. But I will be able to let this Shadow Ball go through, and I could, honestly, like, if I am looking at this right now, I would go into my Dragonite and just go for the full farm down, use a shield maybe even, but I decided to go straight for the Dragon Claw, maybe get the shield here from the opponent, but I actually am not going to be able to do that, so I feel like if I just went for the full farm down, I might have been able to just get out of there with a ton of energy, with like still one shield less, but it's not really ideal. I can go for the superpower against the opponent, forcing a shield though, which is going to be nice. I should have went for the Dragon Claw here most likely as well, which would be way safer. They have their own Rhyperior. I can go for my own charge move here with the Breaking Swipe, don't get the debuff. I can try to go for the full farm down, and they survive with 1 HP. Literally, basically every single thing that could have went wrong here went wrong, which is really bad. I think I still had a chance of winning this game there as well if, like, I just knocked them out there, because then I still had a shield left, I still had 2 moves left, and I still had my Dragonite left. So it is not really ideal, but maybe you can still win this. Ah, never mind. Like, the opponent can farm me down in time there. Next opponent coming through, let's see what they're going to run. They're going to run, of course, the Kyogre in the lead, horrible for us, but they decide to stay in for a little bit here against the Lugia, and they are not going for any charge move, yet at least. Now they're going to go for the Origin Pulse, very likely from the amount of energy that they have, and they are going to decide to swap out into the Dialga, which is going to be okay for us, as we can go for the Aeroblast. We're going to get the attack buff, which is kind of cool, but we don't get to another Sky Attack, so we are going to be forced to go back into the Rhyperior. I decided to let this move go through, because I know we have to go up against the Kyogre later on as well, so I can go for the full farm down. I hopefully can swap out in time into my Dragonite here, but I should be, because yeah, the opponent is still waiting out, but they're still going to be locked into this matchup for a little bit. I could go for the charge move, but I know that it would not knock them out, so I decide to go for a shield instead, just in case they have something in the back that's going to do a ton of damage, and it's going to be the worst possible Pokemon. Next opponent coming through, we're going to have the Dialga in the lead. We had like some bad runs there just now, but I think like this is going to be definitely way better. We want to be able to just go up and use a shield. Actually, I think you can fully farm them down there actually in the lead, which is kind of funny. So we're going to be able to just go for the Breaking Swipe against the Groudon. It does not get the debuff, and it was kind of unnecessary as well. So I decide to swap out into my Dragonite. The opponent is going for their own charge move here with a little bit of delay. Doesn't really matter too much. It's going to be a Fire Punch, and they can go for another charge move afterwards. Again, they don't really do damage in this matchup anyway. Precious Blade is coming through, and I can get out of this matchup with basically 100 energy. I try to bait here the opponent, trying to get the shield from the opponent as well, but I don't get that, so they're most likely going to want to go up into the last matchup with just their final Pokemon, and they do exactly this, which is going to be the Ho-Oh. And the funny thing is here, I can just go for the Breaking Swipe. Breaking Swipe has a very decent chance of debuffing them, and as you can see, we don't get a debuff, and we can still try to get another one here. Let's see if this second one is going to debuff the opponent. They're going to have around 100 energy now. It does get the debuff, and like this, we're going to have a way better time, because what are they going to do against our Lugia now? They are debuffed. It does not really help them out too much here. If they go for any move, it's not going to do too much damage against us. We can easily survive. Sacred Fire here as well, like it doesn't really matter what they're going to go for. Sacred Fire it is. It does like a third of my health. They're going to get the attack drop immediately, which of course is not really ideal, but I can still go for a Sky Attack, force them to... I don't know what they even want to do. Like, they're going to be able to block this move up, but like, what's going to happen next? We still have our Dragonite in the back. We can still take a move here, and I think the opponent knows that as well. Next and final game for today, going to be a MEWeedle in the lead. This is going to be interesting for us, because you're going to do super effective damage, but they're also going to do super effective damage back. Most likely going to be the superpower here, so I decide to use a shield. It is a double Iron Bash, which I did not really expect, but double Iron Bash is not really a great move. Honestly, I don't know why they made this move so weak. Like, it does not make sense. I hope that they're going to buff it in the future, just for the MEWeedle, because it is currently a cross-chop clone, which is not really a great move on its own. Because like Cross Chop I think does the exact same amount of damage as like Night Slash does, but Night Slash has the boost chance, does 5 less damage than Weather Ball and 10 less damage than Body Slam for the same amount of energy, or like 20 less damage compared to Leaf Blade for the exact same energy, showcasing that Double Iron Bash, especially as it's like a signature move of this Pokemon, is pretty crappy, which is just kind of sad, honestly. Like, if Double Iron Bash would have been like a Body Slam clone, I feel like this would be way better for this Pokemon, would not be even broken at all. So hopefully they're going to buff it to a Body Slam clone. I feel like this would work out way better for the MEWeedle. But here we're going to see an Ice Beam Mewtwo, which is going to be a little bit tricky for our Rhyperior. And also, of course, for our Dragonite, because Dragonite has a double weakness to ice. But we're going to be able to get them fairly low. I'm going to let this move go through. My play is to farm them all the way down, not caring about any charge moves anymore. And this is exactly what we're going to do here. I can use a shield. And with this shield, this game is over, as the opponent cannot get to an Ice Beam anymore. And we're going to be able to win this final game. I got an easy 5-0 here as well, as you can see, with this team. Definitely good one to play. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, feel free to leave a like. And I see you in the next one. Bye bye.